Welcome to CollisionCast, FenderBender's official podcast, helping collision repair shop owners make money, save money, and work smarter. I'm Steve Bauer, editor for FenderBender, and with me today is Drew Bryant, owner of DB Orlando Collision, and one of FenderBender's 2022 Best Workplace winners. Welcome, Chris. Congratulations on the award, and we're so happy to have you with us today.
Happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, let's get right into the article that was written about you in FenderBender's March issue. I want to start with kind of your background, and you come from a different background from a lot of body shop owners. Can you explain a little bit about where you spent a lot of your career and how you were able to transform that into the business that you have today?
Sure. Initially started off my work experience washing dishes in the back of a Panera Bread, of all places. And I spent several years kind of climbing the ladder of management, through an initial shift supervisor into upper management at the store level, and then into a district level and regional at the end. I was exposed to a lot of audits, a lot of orientations, a lot of on-site training, a lot of getting commitment from team members, and not only holding members amongst 30, 40 people that are running a physical location, but as I got into the later stages, I was a fish out of the water at the table and exposed to people that technically had PhDs in restaurant management, and I was so outside of my league, but I didn't recognize at the time what I was absorbing that I could apply, to a business that was so completely inconsistent with the restaurant world, such as a body shop, right?
Gotcha. And let me springboard off that. Now, you are, from everything I've read, you are very much a process-driven individual when it comes to your business, correct?
Yeah.
And let me just, for our readers out there, when I say you mean business when it comes to process-driven, I mean, they can read the article when it comes out, but I mean, give me some examples of things that, I mean, you probably won't see in most shops that you would see, at DB Orlando Collision.
Yeah, I mean, it starts from the very beginning. So, I mean, if we're onboarding an employee, it's a definitive, every single position, whether it's a new position that we're wanting to introduce into our operation and or one that's already existing, we've got defined facility tours, what the definition of what that means to us, what our expectations of them are, what their job descriptions would be, any responsibilities and who their team lead would be, what their team lead's responsibilities are. All those things are defined with clarity from the very beginning. Outside of that, each department's going to have posted signage of exactly what the in-process QC should be for each individual particular RO, that transitions through. The key of all of the pieces and all of the widgets that make it all kind of come together is just ensuring that whatever it is that we're doing it consistently. The process that we've implemented is repeatable, and that our people instill the discipline to continually do it again and again. And if we can establish a process or a workflow or production, if you will, that can be repetitive in producing consistent quality results, then ultimately we end up with a successful business and happy people providing good service. And that's in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot more moving pieces, but at the end of the day, it's working to get it consistent, repeatable, and the discipline to do it every day.
Right. Now, in the article, there was one of your employees who was quoted as saying, it gives you, he uses a positive, he says, it gives you a sense of self-responsibility because you know exactly what your job duty is. It's laid out in front of you. And, to me, it was almost like he said, it gives me a sense of pride, knowing that if I'm at this particular station doing this particular job, if I'm following the processes to a T, then at the end of the day, the business is going to be more successful. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, and that's kind of our goal. So, one of the things as we focus on training and implementing our processes, we spend a lot of time on personality tests and personality driven research from a personal level of that technician, and we really get to understand, with clarity how that person ticks, how they handle conflict, how they like to be coached, how they like to be communicated to, and then we'll communicate that feedback to their team leads, and then adversely, give them the advice that they need to be able to communicate back to their team lead to be able to make for a cordial, successful transaction of at minimum communication.
Sure.
And if we start there, we found that it creates a interdependence toward responsibility of my individual task, and I have confidence to know that all I need to do or all I need to worry about is from A to D, and somebody else will pick up at different portions, right? It will make for a mutual kind of respect and confidence throughout the process, as long as everyone's doing their piece. And it instills confidence within them that says, look, I know that as long as I do this portion really, really well, everything's going to be able to work itself out, if you will.
Right. Now, are you a big believer, and I know it depends on the owner, but are you a believer in hiring the right person for the job or hiring the right person in general? I mean, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, most definitely I'm going to lean to the second half of hiring the right person in general. I
Okay.
mean, the exposure that we've had to personality test and the impact that it can have on a position, it's probably one of the first things that we consider for a new position. I mean, if we're hiring a blueprint apprentice or a technician to bring them into a triage department, we are intentionally, specifically, looking for an individual that is going, to be owl-like tendencies, very analytical, a researcher, cares about the details, very detail-oriented, and we want to teach the skill set, right? We want to implement the process and put them through a routine and a consistent environment, but it's incredibly challenging for us that we found to do the complete opposite, right?
Right. And have you seen, I think you have 17 employees now, is that correct?
17 total.
So of those 17, how many would you say were, brought in and trained by you guys instead of having an outsider, come in or maybe
So
go ahead.
out of the 17, 12 of them have all been trained within. Some of the 12 had some previous industry knowledge, but it was very minor. But the 12 that we do have not only advanced within to one position, but majority of them have advanced at least to some of them 4, 5, 6 positions. So the growth within is impressive, and I think all that does is support our story, right? So everybody that would be under them, as them being the team lead or whatever they would be within their department, they're setting examples for the rest. The potential that's there for the other team members that are on board, right? As they come in, it's not a bunch of smoke and mirrors and us promising them the world. It's saying, we've got 12 people here that you can go to for advice on. I know it seems non-traditional. I know that regardless of your level of exposure within this industry or this business, this seems non-traditional. But if you can grab it by the horns and you can implement discipline to make sure that you're doing your part, you can be where I'm at, kind of thing. And I think seeing that firsthand creates a sense of motivation and drive within somebody that you can't pay for, right?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the old adage, actions speak louder than words. You could tell me all day that I have advancement opportunities, but if I'm there for 4 years and I'm in the same position and I haven't learned anything, clearly, that was, you didn't follow through on your end. So to be able to actually see live, living results as you are going up the ladder, I think that's got to be a huge positive for any member of your staff to know, yeah, it's possible. they do give me the tools. If I'm willing to work hard and learn the process, I can move up in this place, and I can see examples of it every day. So I think that's great. One thing I wanted to kind of add to that is I know based on your past, your business past, you have a very very strong work ethic, and I know it's pointed out in the article that it's not uncommon for you to you're a shop owner, you will work weekends and holidays, but what struck me was that you're also the kind of guy who will pay attention to your employees, and if you see someone who's been in the shop all weekend and they shouldn't be, you might be one of the first people to walk over to them and say, hey, there is such a thing as a work-life balance. Go home, go be with your family. And there's a great story in there where I believe one of your coworkers' wives had to leave her job to go. It was a personal issue, I think, with her child. And the next day the person showed up, and there was the money that she lost, from having to leave her job was on his desk. I mean, that has got. If that were me as an employee, that would mean so much. And how does that come about for you, as someone who has such a strong work ethic, to also be able to balance it out with your employees and say, hey, this isn't the end of the world. You don't have to be in here every day. You might see me in here, but at the same time, you have your own family. So can you just kind of elaborate on that a little bit, and how I mean, it had to have been a culture change within you as well. I mean, so if you can talk a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, experiencing firsthand the restaurant industry was the first job I ever had.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything but. And as the higher I got, the higher the level of responsibility, the higher demand, and time was just the byproduct, right? So naturally, I was exchanging my time for results. And, at the time, if my name was on something, whether it was an audit, the orientation, whatever it would be, it was going to get done to the nines. And as I experienced that, in order to keep it at the level that I was willing to put my name on, I was exposed to 70, 80, sometimes 80 plus hour weeks.
Yeah.
And, my days off were spent preparing for days on, right?
Right.
Whether it be training or writing material, etc. So that exposure to the amount of time that I spent at the time at a much younger age than I am now, but away from my family right now, today, I know firsthand what that's like. I know the quality of life at the time that I was living, and now I've been blessed to have children. I've got a 3-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son at home, and I know what impact I have in their lives, and I correlate that to my team members. I don't want them to feel or experience how I felt when I was putting in those 70, 80-hour weeks. There's no need. And the way that I tie that together and motivate myself to continually kind of push to be the leader that they need is as I go through the exposure of seeing them in that schedule, I hold responsible internally that if they're here over the weekend, or if they're here till 10, 11, midnight at night spraying cars, well, I'm not doing my job as a leader throughout the day to give them the tooling that they need to be able to adequately set goals and determine realistic targets that are achievable, and what are how do the metrics break down to be able to define smaller goals throughout the day that are achievable, so that not only are you going home on time, but you're going home with the thought of, man, I feel accomplished today.
Right.
I did a lot, right? I made a difference within the shop, right?
Yeah. And I really enjoy also the fact that a big part of your shop is leadership by example. I know there are quiet leaders, there are leaders who love to give speeches. To me, I think the reference was in your story where, if someone sees you taking out the garbage, that would, signal to most people, you know what, I, as the owner, am not above taking the garbage out. It may not be my job, but it has to be done. And I think that, your employees see that. And they're like, wow, it's Drew doesn't have to do that, but there he is. Of all people, you could assign anyone to do it. And do you think that plays a lot into it? Do you think your employees, at least see that and see the effort that you're making, knowing that, hey, any one of us can chip in. We're all here as a team.
Yeah, I think that becomes that old, practice what you preach, right?
Right.
I hand out goal sheets at the beginning of the year, and I joke about how it's not a New Year's resolution, but when I hand them out, I tear my goal sheet off my shower within literally my shower wall at home, and it's all tethered and heat has got to it and there's marker running down the front of it, but I'll bring it in
Yeah.
and demonstrate to them, listen, this is how many times my personal goal sheet got cleared off. That goal sheet that I'm currently working on personally within my own home, and I've got my wife using and I'm using, is the same goal sheet that I'm handing out to you. The only difference is what you're going to do with it versus what I'm doing with it.
Right.
And when they're exposed to that level of, it's not just giving you a bunch of smoke and mirrors, but we're saying, look, you too can have whatever it is that you want. Let's define what it is that you want. Let's make sure that you understand why you tick the way you tick, and then what resources do we have to help you accomplish that? And it kind of boils down to simply that, right? And as long as they can see, my goodness, if this guy writes it down or if he says it's going to happen, ultimately it's just a matter of time that it's going to take place.
Right.
It kind of gets them thinking, right?
Right.
What am I capable of?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example. I don't want to keep you too long here. You've already given me way more enough of your time than you needed to. But one last question I have for you, and I'll get you out of here. For all of those body shop list owners that are out there listening to you right now, if you have one or two pieces of advice to help them, try to get that organic culture back, or to even start it if they're a shop owner or they have an influx of new employees, and what would be maybe your top two pieces of advice for them, regardless if they're new or they own several shops?
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the core of what we do, although it's not easy, it is relatively simple. We boil it down, as shop owners, we get up early. We push our team and our family to be better. We radiate unnatural levels of self-discipline in most cases. And at the end of the day, we make success happen, right? The thought, of helping people, too many times I think can be misconstrued as, maybe a financial donation or giving help to a program or giving help to an individual. But if we just share our time, our experiences, our mindsets, and really intentionally mentor the team to become better people, ultimately I think it's going to speak to the environment that you're working in. If you're utilizing the problems and or, I hate to say the word problems, but more the hurdles associated within your week, let's identify the hurdles. What were the things that held us back from delivering our targets for the week? And then constructively record that information, to just come back full circle and make intentional time to review what's holding you back, see the consistencies, and then work to implement a solution together. Ultimately, I think that the byproduct at the end will be more and more consistent. It'll breed consistency. You'll feel the change. It'll be a positive change instead of just the mundane 9 to 5, a different flavor of the week that no one's holding each other accountable for. And ultimately, if we're working on each individual within the business, and it becomes that interdependence toward, personal development, personal growth, the mutual feeling of the team just becomes greater.
That's great. That is fantastic advice. Well, Drew, I'll let you go again. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to just chat with me today. I know I've learned a lot. And again, I want to congratulate you on being one of FenderBender's 2022 best workplaces. So congrats on that. And I, again, just want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I am Steve Bauer, and this is CollisionCast, and we will talk to you next week.